Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Today, we're going to talk about how inflation is climbing, costs are rising. Grocery costs are 29% higher than they were at the start of the pandemic, and this is just creating economic chaos. So, we're going to focus on how you market in chaos and how brand equity can be your best investment. I'm Anna Bleers. I'm a fractional CMO and founder of Fearless Strategic Marketing.
And I'm Erika Weiss. I'm also a fractional CMO, and I'm also an adjunct professor of marketing and branding at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. So with so much going on in the economy with inflation and rising costs, how do we market in this really difficult, challenging time? Well, first of all, you're going to double down on what is working and make sure that you're optimizing and really watching those budgets so that you're not wasting money there. But the real key here, this is a time to invest in your brand, in building brand equity. Branding is the long pole in marketing, but it's something that you don't ever want to overlook. Brand is really one of your absolute best assets. And this is what brings people to you as a customer, and it keeps people coming back. It gives you the opportunity to charge more for your product or service than another product of the same utility. Branding is what is going to be your long-term strategy and the way that you stay afloat and position yourself for long-term success in really challenging times like we're in right now.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, this has been studied by WARC and the IPA across the globe with brands of all sizes and in different categories. And what they found in that research is that building brand equity is what drives long-term growth in sales. And it also drives profit. And, a big misconception is people, especially in times of economic crisis like now, want to go to promotions and sales activations and really focus on the product. But what they've proven through their research at, again, WARC and the IPA is that just creates short-term sales. So in the moment, you think you're driving sales, but what you're really doing is just creating these little spikes instead of long-term growth. And that is critical, especially as Erika was talking about, if you need pricing power. And when consumers are so pressed and thinking so much about every single dollar they're spending, pricing power and brand equity is the key for lasting growth.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of really one of my favorite sort of like marketing quotes that I've ever heard. This is from Jon Stewart, who was the chairman of Quaker Oats in the mid 1950s. He said, if this business were to be split up, I would be glad to take the brands, trademarks, and goodwill, and you could have all the bricks and mortar, and I would fare better than you. So, I mean, it's so true. And you think about, like, people buy based on emotion. And that's what branding creates. People are buying into the story, into the aspiration of what your brand can do for them. And it's very powerful. Emotional branding increases engagement. It boosts interaction. It enhances brand recall. So it's all about being memorable, and brand gives you that over time. Brand also has this power to drive word of mouth. So it actually brings your acquisition costs down. If you can turn your most raving fans into brand loyalists and brand advocates, they can speak better on behalf of your brand than you as a brand can. And that's another really important way to do marketing in this challenging time. So it all comes down to emotion, aspiration, memory, recall, driving word of mouth, driving great customer experience. That is all part of brand and branding. And another thing I was just going to mention is that, we're in marketing. Marketing is an extremely customer-centric endeavor. And right now we have unprecedented access to our customers and so many tools to be able to hear exactly what they're saying and tap right into them in a different way than we used to, with like focus groups, which are going to be inherently flawed. You can now go onto Reddit threads. You can go onto comments. There's, all kinds of amazing social listening tools. And it's so important to hear your customers, to speak their language, to really take into consideration how people are talking about your brand. So it's something we've never had so much ability to do so easily.
Yeah, no, and that is so important. I mean, a big mistake a lot of brands make is make it a one-way conversation where they're just telling consumers all about them.
Yeah.
And the key to creating a powerful brand with equity that's going to drive, again, those long-term connections and sales is understanding what matters to people in their life and then looking through that lens back at your category and back at your brand, and then finding out how your brand can connect with what matters to people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love is right now, some brands are coming out and talking about this and saying, hey, I'm not going to be reactive. I'm not going to focus on short-termism. I'm going to focus on the long-term equity of my brand. Molson Coors, Ralph Lauren, Kenvue have all come out and talked about it. And my favorite, which is close to my heart because I worked on it for years, is Starbucks. They recently got Brian Nichols to be their new CEO, who was at Chipotle for years. And for, many years recently, Starbucks really leaned on convenience and drive-throughs. But what they kind of lost sight of is that they are an experience brand, and creating these incredible experiences, whether it's in the cafe or around their drinks, that was part of how they were creating these powerful connections. And so he understood that, and he's now leading this entire Back to Starbucks strategy, which is all about reconnecting with the soul of the brand, which was that third space. And, Mike's Hot Honey is another great example. I had the privilege of meeting the CMO last week and hearing her talk about what you were talking about, Erika, of, they're a brand that's growing. They don't have big budgets, but how they've driven growth is by connecting with their fans and using their fans as brand advocates. And only a brand with powerful equity can do that.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. So kind of, tagging onto that, how do you build brand equity? What does that even mean? And I think you tapped into it really well with the Starbucks example, is going back to the customer experience and going back to your initial mission and values and walking the walk and talking the talk. So I love that example of Starbucks. Other ways to build your brand equity. And this is also really fantastic for startups or brands that don't have a lot of budget now, are things like content and storytelling, educational content, doing things like getting your founder out there. So founder visibility. People now want to connect with brands on an emotional level, and they want to work with brands that align with their core values. So that sort of mission-driven brand and the visibility of the founder is so important right now. And then going beyond that, like really living the mission. And I love, there's a baby infant formula brand called Bobby. And they're an amazing example of a company that really lived their mission and stayed really true to their core values. And it helped build the brand and helped them grow. But you might remember several years back, there was a formula shortage. And this would have been a great opportunity for a brand like Bobby to, do a money grab and say, all right, we have all of this, we have all this formula, have at it. But they doubled down and they made a very deliberate decision based on their brand to pull back and only fulfill orders for people who subscribe to them. So that's a scary thing to do, but it helped them build their equity and who they are in the eyes of the consumer.
I love that. And, it was rooted in what matters to people and not losing sight of that. And, when you have a powerful strategy that's rooted in what matters to people. When you bring it to life, you just have to remember to be doing it in a highly distinctive way. You have to remember it's about grabbing attention in a way that's meaningful, being memorable. And then a big one that especially a lot of brands forget is being consistent.
Yes.
Consistency is one of the most important things because consumers are living their lives and focused on so many other things. We can't make it harder for them. Being consistent helps make it really memorable.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to be memorable as a brand. You want to be top of mind.
Well, this has been such a fun conversation. I mean, Erika, you and I could talk for days and days and days. But, I think a couple things that, I'd love to leave the people here with is, as we were talking about connecting with what matters to people, being distinctive, attention getting, memorable. Remember, don't fall prey to short-termism when you're in this challenging time. You can use promotions, yes, but what drives long-term growth, long-term ROI is investing in your brand equity and using that as the core.
So well said.